everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of week it is. It's Friday. Got to get down on Friday, and it's my favourite, well, it's not my favourite time of the week this week because I'm feeling a bit under the weather. It's just a cold. But usually it is my favourite time of the week, and that's because it's time to talk about my wrestlers of the week. What a week it's been. AEW Revolution was amazing in my opinion. There were some good matches on NXT, on Dynamite, on Raw, on SmackDown. And we're all building, of course, towards Elimination Chamber on Sunday. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at my honourable mentions. Even though he lost the AEW World title at Revolution, I think we should give Chris Jericho some major props just for how good his title run has been generally. Sammy Guevara was part of a really good match against Darby Allen and hit that insane 630 from the top rope through a table on the outside. Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai had a very entertaining steel cage match on NXT this week. Another step in their really intense rivalry with a very unique finish as well, with Tegan Nox being squashed against the cage with the back side of the steel door. That was pretty inventive. And Austin Theory picked up a big landmark first win in NXT, but he did cheat to do so, the dirty bastard. Now let's get on to the top 10, and number 10 this week is a man who has been a bit strange recently. Well, he's always strange, but he's been particularly strange even for him. That's right, it's Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream's had a really weird 2020 so far, locked in this feud with Roderick Strong, where, despite being the babyface, he's quite clearly been a massive dickhead. He's been a bit like Rick Rude, but the babyface version. He's been targeting and taunting Roderick Strong's family, making references to them on his tights, making sexually suggestive remarks about Roderick Strong's wife, who is a horsewoman, so be careful because she'll batter you, mate. And yeah, it's just really generally very strange. It feels like they've kind of missed the mark with this whole angle, I suppose. He's doing what Samoa Joe did to AJ Styles, except Samoa Joe is the bad guy. But this week could be the turning point, the real turning point in the recent step in the career of Velveteen Dream, because he main evented NXT in a steel cage match against Roderick Strong, and I think we may have turned a corner here. Very few people are able to outwit the Undisputed Era, but that's exactly what Velveteen Dream did at the end of this match. He was about to escape over the top of the cage. The rest of the Era ran down to stop him from beating their stablemate. He was sort of teetering on the top and then thought, I can't go down there. Got back into the ring, and then the Era started climbing the cage and he was knocking them off the side of the cage. He dragged Adam Cole in the ring and realised, oh, I have the NXT champion here at my feet. So then Dream, very cleverly, grabbed Roderick Strong, looked at the open door of the cage, and just chucked him out, taking the loss and locking himself in the cage with Adam Cole. And really, that's the reason why Velveteen Dream picks up a point this week. Not because of the match, although the match was a very good one, but it was more because of the aftermath and the whole inventiveness of this angle. It was a total power play by Velveteen Dream. In fact, Andrew, on the edit, can you just pop up #powerplay in big letters? Thanks very much. Just to really illustrate my point. #powerplay. Dream then completely battered Adam Cole, laid him out, and hoisted the NXT Championship high, thereby staking a claim as the new #1 contender to Adam Cole's title. Power play complete. Number 9 this week, Darby Allen. It's been a big week for everyone's favourite little goth skateboard stuntman / fearless idiot, hasn't it? But it's been a big week for better and for worse. So first of all, on Revolution, he picked up a victory, finally getting revenge on his rival Sammy Guevara in a really excellent match. The sleeper hit of the night, in my opinion. And it wasn't just the match, it was the brawl before the match as well, with both guys really putting their own bodies on the line to just do harm to each other. But Darby did pick up the victory, and then this week on Dynamite, he had the honour of being the first tag team partner of Jon Moxley in his new AEW World Championship reign, a position that I think Darby secured by being Moxley's only sort of friend in the world. Apart from Shota Umino, of course, and I would love to see those two reunite, but Shota Umino is currently on excursion from New Japan, and when they do reunite, I think it's going to be a really beautiful moment. But this tag match in the main event of Dynamite, Darby and Moxley versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho, that basically became a 2-on-1 handicap match because Moxley was jumped during his entrance, leaving Darby isolated against the two heels. But Darby did really well here. When I said it was a big week for better and worse, this is the worst because he got beaten down and, he got apparently hospitalized due to the end of this match, but he really held his own as a resilient babyface for the duration of the bout, holding off both men, getting beaten down a lot, but at one stage dragging himself to his own corner, nobody's there obviously, and just hot tagging himself in, presumably enraging a certain man in Kentucky. But yes, he did lose the match, and the final blow may have even injured Darby Allin as Jericho nailed him with a Judas effect in the middle of a big suicide dive, so that looked nasty. Get well soon, mate. Number 8, and I hate to do this because I hate him and I hate everything he stands for. Number 8 this week, picking up 3 points. It's MJF. Ugh. MJF picked up clearly the biggest win of his career on Saturday night, defeating Cody in a deliberately dissatisfying match. You know, you can't have the baby faces win all the time. Sometimes the heels have to be elevated too, and sometimes it's right in the story. And even though my initial gut reaction was one of disgust and revulsion that MJF had won this match, I do sort of agree with it in hindsight. You know, MJF was brilliant here. He was healing it up massively. He was begging towards the end. He didn't let himself get distracted by Cody's neck tattoo. Everything you want to see in a complete heel performance. But of course he didn't beat Cody clean, and I think that's the right call as well. You can't have MJF beat Cody clean. He did so in William Regal fashion, nailing Cody with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, the power of the punch, knocking out Cody and allowing MJF to just fall on him, fortunately, for the pin. Fortunately for MJF, not fortunately for us, the disgusted fans. Now, what's next for both men? Well, Cody appears to be heading into a feud with this mystery man, thanks to Jake the Snake Roberts' debut on this week's Dynamite, where he announced that he's got a spooky client. We don't know who it is. So that's going to be Cody's next match. MJF, in a little backstage promo, seemed to announce his intention to be gunning for the AEW World Championship. I think that's exactly the right call. He's won a huge match on pay-per-view. Why not try and elevate him to that title scene where Jon Moxley can murder him and end him forever? I don't want to see him murdered forever. I just want to see him murdered for a bit. Moving on now to number 7 this week, picking up 4 big points. It's that Geordie bastard, Pac. An eventful week as well for Pac. First of all, he was part of that amazing match against Orange Cassidy at Revolution. If you've not seen it, I highly suggest you do. Pac picked up the win, but that match was very much about the journey rather than the destination. But that match ended because the Lucha Bros got involved, Pentagon and Phoenix, helping to nullify the best friends on the outside, distract Orange Cassidy, and allow Pac to pick up the victory. Now, on Dynamite, it was confirmed that they formed more of a solid allegiance than you might think. Pac had another very solid match, not as good as the orange one, but a very solid match against Chuck Taylor, which he won. And then after the match, the Lucha Bros ran down again, and they're in cahoots with Pac. There is official stablemate, and that stable is called Death Triangle. Lot of divided opinion on that name. I think it's fine. I think it's all right. Some people don't like it, and I can sort of see why. In fairness, the Spanish name's better, Triangulo de la Muerte. I hope they stick with that one rather than Death Triangle, as Pac would say. But at the same time, yeah, really looking forward to seeing what these 3 guys can do. They are instantly one of the best trios in the world of wrestling, surely, because they're 3 of the best wrestlers in the world of wrestling. That's how it works. Anyway, a big week for Pac, 4 points for him. Now let's see who's at number 6. Next up, it's Pac's opponent from Revolution. What a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. It's freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. I showed a bit too much enthusiasm there, I'm sorry. You know, since Orange Cassidy started to get very organically over with AEW audiences, we were all really hoping for this, weren't we? We were hoping that he would gradually get a chance to show what he could do, and then it would all explode. And this weekend, or last weekend, is when it really did explode, and he reminded us all that he's actually a really good wrestler. I remember when I was first starting to get into indie wrestling by watching like YouTube compilations of Chikara and stuff like that, and I remember Fire Ant. I do remember Fire Ant from the Colony. I think it was Fire Ant and Soldier Ant were Orange Cassidy and Drew Gulak. What a tag team, yeah. And I think that, you know, they had something. I really liked the Colony. Not as much as the Assyrian Portal. They were my boys. I supported the Assyrian Portal like I would my favourite football team. But at the same time, you know, Fire Ant was a really good wrestler. And now we've got him in Orange Cassidy form, busting out all of the moves with so much personality as well. This match against Pac was wonderful. From Orange Cassidy taking him down at the start of the match to a huge pop, to the rolling spots where he was rolling back and forth across the canvas, to the bit later on where Cassidy really fired up and started nailing all kinds of moves, and Pac himself had to roll out of the ring to catch a breather. And the Superman punch, oh my god, the Superman punch that looked absolutely excellent. Everything Orange Cassidy did in this match, despite losing, was utterly electrifying. Now, of course, he did lose the match, but it's not about that. It's not about that at all, and I can't wait to see what lies in store for Orange Cassidy next. I can't wait until he gets a big win over somebody. I can't wait to see what happens. I think they've handled this so perfectly. And the exciting thing is as well, I think it was Jordan Grace on Twitter who said he's only operating at about 10%, which is so exciting. If he starts to bust out even crazier stuff, then we're all in for a massive treat. Next up, number 5, and the new AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley, who really has just been totally liberated, hasn't he? It's such a contrast, and so many people have said this, I'm not saying anything original, but it's such a contrast from this time last year when he was Dean Ambrose in WWE, towards the end of his WWE run, being put in weird feuds and weird storylines, and his character was changing week by week, and it didn't seem very consistent at all, and you could tell, despite him really trying, that his heart wasn't in it. Now you can tell his heart's in it. It's fully in it. And I know it's easy for your heart to be in something when you're the champion, when you're pushed as the top dog, but Moxley's really earned this. He really has earned this through years of his career, building up his persona and his in-ring style, and finally, in a sort of ironic way, reverting back to what he was like before his WWE run, that vicious, unhinged edge, but in a babyface way, really getting the crowd on side. I think that he is the perfect choice to be the second ever AEW World Champion, and it was a good match as well to close the show. Not the best match on the pay-per-view, but I think it was the right decision and a very satisfying end to the night. I haven't really got much more to say about Moxley. I've mentioned him quite a lot on this series so far. He has been one of the front runners this year, and I'm just really delighted with how it's going for him. He is truly a unique character in the world of wrestling. Yes, shades of Roddy Piper, shades of Mick Foley, but he also is his own man, and that is wonderful to see. I don't know what's next for Moxley. He, of course, was powerbombed off the stage at the end of Dynamite this week, and I guess that's going to continue the feud with Jericho for a little bit. But beyond Jericho, I really am intrigued to see who his future number one contender is. Maybe it's going to be MJF, who knows? Whoever it is, I think they're going to be elevated by Moxley rather than buried by him. Right, so number 4 is Nick Jackson, but then, spoilers, Matt Jackson's next, so I'm going to talk about both Young Bucks in the same sort of entry. But for now, while Nick Jackson's picture's up there, just so I don't waste the opportunity, just going to list off a few things I like about Nick. So he's good at flips. Contrary to the opinion of some, he's good at in-ring storytelling. He edits Being the Elite as well as helping run a wrestling show and being a wrestler on it, so you can probably say that he's a hard worker. I think he has pretty eyes. He's the less cheerful and therefore the cooler Young Buck. And also, he's the Young Buck who looks less like Jim Carrey. That's not a positive or a negative. That's just an observation. Right, so number 3 is Matt Jackson. Now, both Matt and Nick Jackson were excellent in that tag match at Revolution, but also I hate them. Yes, I've made it clear in several videos on this channel already that I was taking Hangman Page's side in this whole feud, and I was delighted to find when I was watching Revolution that I was in the majority, and the Young Bucks were heavily booed during their ring entrance. To be fair to the Bucks, they played it off really well, even before the match had begun, and then as a result of all this storytelling and all the build-up and all the condescension shown towards Hangman Page by both the Bucks and in a way his own partner Kenny Omega as well, it just all boiled over in this match. And it was a beautiful thing to see. There was everything you could hope for in this match. You know, it started off very tense, but then it just escalated into full-blown war. There were, stolen finishes, spitting, super versions of finishes on the ramp, but it was all underpinned by an incredible sense of storytelling. And that's the real strength of this match. Not necessarily the moves, although they do help, but the real strength of this match is the strong storytelling throughout. It was such a good match, in fact, that even Jim Cornette, and I listened to his review, out of curiosity more than agreeing with him. But even Jim Cornette struggled to find ways to criticize it. He did manage in one or two ways, but I think that says a lot about this match. Not that I think that Cornette's opinion is necessarily valuable when it comes to new age wrestling, but I think the fact that he was struggling to criticize it really does say a lot about the performance of both Young Bucks here. Number 2, Kenny Omega, another man that I don't really like very much at the moment because I'm firmly team Hangman Page, but Omega played his role in this match to an absolute T, and his role in the whole storyline, as much as I didn't like it, it was perfect. He was not being a very good tag partner, he was trying to keep everyone happy, but sometimes in life, you can't do that. And when one of the guys is your fellow tag team champion and one of your best friends, and he's being treated very rudely by 2 of your other best friends, I think maybe you should side with the tag team partner, Kenny. Maybe you should have done, mate. But Kenny was great, of course, in this match. The moment that really stands out to me from his performance, apart from multiple excellent V-triggers and all that sort of stuff that Kenny can do really well, were 2 things. One, the selling of the shoulder, which meant he couldn't hit the one-winged angel. More on that in just a bit. But also, the golden trigger, the double knee strike, the Kamigoye sort of thing. Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega's double team finisher, which the Young Bucks used on Kenny Omega, and then he kicked out at 1 and set the place alight. Because even though Ibushi's not in AEW, doesn't mean that he doesn't exist in the wider world of wrestling, and I'm delighted that their strong bond was referenced here in this match. That was an absolutely great spot. You could argue, oh, he's just been blasted by a big finisher, why is he kicking out at 1? Because in the story, it made sense. And I really wonder if this is sort of part of Kenny's mantra when it comes to booking big matches, or when it comes to putting together big matches, excuse me. Because I was there at Wrestle Kingdom when he took on Tanahashi in the main event, and at one point, Omega stole Tanahashi's finisher, the High Fly Flow, and Tanahashi kicked out at one, and the whole Tokyo Dome around me just came alive. And I don't know whether that was Kenny's idea or Tanahashi's or whoever's idea it was, but I feel like Kenny may have taken inspiration from that if it wasn't his idea and used it very wisely in this match to take it to the next level. Just a bit of a theory there to think about, just a bit of a cheeky theory from your boy, Jack the Jobber. Right, number one now, let's get on to my wrestler of the week, and there can only be one this week. And also, he is the first two-time winner of 2020, and his name, of course, is Hangman Adam Page. I felt really vindicated in getting behind Adam Page in this storyline because I just think that he's been hard done by, and I'm going to be so devastated if he's the one to turn heel at the end of all of this. I think he should be a massive hero. The problem is that, you know, he has been acting heelishly, but if the Bucks were to turn heel on him, or Kenny was to, or all three of them, as they nearly did in the aftermath of this match when they all stood there for the super kick and then didn't, I think that would be the more compelling storyline. But then, of course, that wasn't the only tease, because after the match, Hangman also teased a move of his own, almost going for the buckshot lariat on Kenny Omega, but then just not doing that either. And Kenny and Hangman walked out with the titles, having won the match, and the status quo is exactly the same. In a bizarre way, despite being an epic tag team match, it didn't change the status quo one little bit. It didn't change anything. Kenny and Hangman still have tension between them. Hangman still hates the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks still really don't know what's going on. And the titles are still around the waists of Kenny and Hangman. Nothing has changed. And again, I was going to just briefly mention that moment in the match where Kenny could not hit the one-winged angel, so Hangman did it for him, just dropping, can't remember which Young Buck it was, I think it was dropping Matt with his own version of the one-winged angel. 1-2, Nick came in and broke it up. But the fact that Hangman was willing to go to such lengths to keep a hold of those tag team titles, it's amazing. I really love the storyline here. I loved Hangman's performance, and crucially, he was the man who got the win as well, with a pair of big buckshot lariats, one on the ramp, one back into the ring, and he beat the Young Bucks, and that's got to count for something. And this week, it counts for 10 points and status as my wrestler of the week. Right, let's take a look at the league table. As you can see, Moxley and Omega take the joint lead, while Hangman Page is up to third place alongside Masato Tanaka. It's all very tight at the top, isn't it? This is really the first week where I think the league table has started to take a proper form, in my opinion. And as we move down, we see the likes of Aleister Black, for example, who has a pay-per-view match at this weekend, and Cody, who could always snag a few points depending on whether he's wrestling on Dynamite this coming week. But for now, it's two of AEW's champions at the top. World champion Jon Moxley and one of the tag team champions, Kenny Omega, with Hangman not far behind. Now, I know that it was a very AEW heavy week this week, but there is a chance for several WWE superstars to boost their standings next week, because of course on Sunday we have Elimination Chamber. One of the key candidates in my mind, as I mentioned in the league table bit, was Aleister Black. He's got a no DQ match with AJ Styles, which looks good on paper, but in practice, we'll have to see. I'm not quite certain how that match is going to pan out. Shayna Baszler as well. Now, she could pick up some serious points, but the problem for me here is that Shayna is the predictable winner. She's almost certainly going to win that Elimination Chamber match. So how are they going to make it dramatic? I guess we'll find out. Thanks very much for watching Wrestlers of the Week, and I'll catch you very soon.